Okay, so how do we really get to know ourselves? Like, deep down. And then how do you even begin to uh, communicate that inner world, all its complexities, to someone else? Today we're diving into a really unique story, maybe a surprising one. It involves music, AI, and this incredible personal journey of self-discovery. Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're looking at sources today that unpack how one creator is using AI-generated music.
Yeah, it's fascinating. They're exploring their own subpersonalities.
Exactly. And building this thing they actually call a personal museum of the mind.
All through a YouTube channel, Max of all trades.
So our mission for you today is to sort of unpack how this creator manages to bridge their inner life and, the outside world.
Right, because it's not just about making songs. It's much more than that.
It feels like a pretty profound statement, actually, about creativity, what's authentic, self-discovery, especially now in this digital age.
Get ready for some maybe some aha moments, I think, about what creating really means.
So it's interesting how the creator frames it right from the start. They say it's not about going viral. It's about personal expression, which, in today's world of metrics and clicks, that feels different.
It really does set a different tone. What does that choice tell us, you think, especially with AI in the mix?
Well, the creator calls Max of all trades their creative home.
And a bridge. I like that description. A bridge between the internal world I live in and the external world I move through.
Yeah, they stress it started just to give shape to thoughts, emotions, and subpersonalities.
In a way that felt honest,
Right.
expressive.
Exactly. And what really gets me is how it moved from being like private notebooks and folders of ideas to something public, or at least publicly accessible. These soundtracks, metaphors, and personality test playlists that live online.
It's a big leap.
It is. It brings up that vulnerability question, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What makes us share these really private things, even if we started doing it just for ourselves? That's a great point. Like, where's that line? And what they're sharing is so unique. It kicked off with this really interesting journaling exercise, apparently for years.
Right, labeling 10 different subpersonalities.
Yeah, with these vivid metaphors: animals, drinks, vegetables, colors.
Even Dungeons and Dragons classes I saw. And decades.
Yeah, it was just this personal system for understanding themselves, something they said they never thought would leave, like a spreadsheet.
But then comes the turning point.
Right.
Turning those labels, those ideas into songs. That's when they say it changed everything.
And they give that example: Addy is a sweet potato.
Which, okay, conceptually, it's kind of quirky, interesting.
But then they explain when you actually write a song with lyrics about Addy's personality, and you even bring in the cultural story of sweet potatoes.
It becomes something else entirely. It gets meaningful, experiential.
And fun, they say. It's like translating something internal and abstract into art you can actually experience.
It really is. And they didn't just stop there. They built these whole 10-song playlists around the concept.
Calling them a kind of musical personality test. But importantly, not a quiz.
Yeah, they're clear on that. It's meant to be a mirror. You're not getting a result. You're invited to sort of feel it through the music and the story.
And the range is just, wow, over 100 songs.
Yeah, across all these categories: fruits and vegetables, dances around the world, Stardew Valley lovers.
Barnyard animals, 20th century decades, D&D classes, beverages, alcoholic and non-alcoholic.
It's quite the collection. And what's really interesting is how they describe them more than themes.
Right. Emotional archetypes, sound portraits.
Metaphors turned melody. It's like a whole personal mythology set to music.
So it becomes this like dual learning thing for the creator too, doesn't it?
Oh, so.
Well, they're learning about the world, doing the research for these metaphors, right? The sweet potato history or whatever. And then learning about themselves by actually giving these, inner parts a voice, a sound.
That's a great insight. It's deeply personal, but maybe has universal echoes too.
Yeah.
And if we think bigger picture, this isn't just, self-expression. It's a really structured way of discovering yourself. When you take these internal ideas and make them external, make them into art, how does that change your relationship with them? As the creator, I mean.
That's a deep question.
And for us listening in, how does seeing someone else map out their inner world like this affect how we see ourselves?
That leads us right into the AI part of it all.
Yeah.
Because you might be thinking, okay, this sounds super personal, introspective. Where does tech fit in? And the creator's really upfront about it. AI lets me scale this work without sacrificing family time or my day job.
They call it a lifeline for completion.
Yeah, exactly. It lets me finish what I start,
Mm.
brings my notebook to life,
Mm.
and this part is key. Keeps me human.
That totally reframes the usual AI narrative, doesn't it? It's not a shortcut, it's an enabler.
Right. It allows the ideas to actually become real.
But there's more to it. There's this undercurrent, this quiet protest, as they put it.
Yeah, against the whole AI is poisoning the well of creativity argument.
The creator pushes back hard on that. They say, frankly, that well was already poisoned. Oof.
That really jumped out at me, too. It's not just about AI anymore. It's this bigger critique of the whole creative industry.
Totally reframes the AI and authenticity debate.
The creator talks about a culture saturated with remakes, empty lyrics, and profit-first content,
Songs about nothing, written for algorithms. That's a sharp observation.
and points out how billion-dollar empires guard their IP with lawyers while shoving prepackaged relatable content down our throats. It hits a nerve, I think, for a lot of people.
Yeah, it really taps into a frustration with mainstream culture.
And this is where their my slop idea comes in. It's powerful.
Explain that a bit.
They say, I'm not here to compete with that. I'm not here to sell.
Okay.
I'm here because I got tired of being the kid asking people to read my story because I needed to make something for myself, even if no one else cares.
Wow. That's quite a statement.
And then the kicker.
Yeah.
This isn't AI slop. It's my slop. And I'd rather watch something I made than what a committee of executives and A/B tests approved for mass release.
So the protest isn't really against AI?
No, it's against forgetting what it means to create like a human being.
That's a really interesting distinction. It's about intention, about the why behind the creation, not just the how.
Exactly.
This my slop philosophy, it's defiant, sure, but it's also trying to redefine quality.
How do you mean?
Well, it challenges the idea that only stuff that sells well or stuff that took huge amounts of purely human labor has real soul or value.
Right.
It suggests that maybe, in a world drowning in polished content, real integrity comes from just raw, honest personal expression, even if only you care about it.
That act of personal resonance has its own power.
Yeah. But it does make you wonder, though, while the intent is pure self-expression, could the sheer volume that AI makes possible still add to that content overload they're also criticizing?
That's a really fair question. Where's the line between authentic output
Yeah.
and just more noise, scale versus soul?
Mm-hmm.
And that struggle, making stuff and wanting anyone to see it, that's so relatable.
Or any creative person, yeah.
The creator talks about their past, making lists, stories, putting them in a file, never showing anyone.
Or showing them and getting nothing back.
Yeah.
That feeling of being tired of asking people to look at your art.
Yeah, feeling like the weird kid, that vulnerability, wanting to be seen, but also fighting against needing that external thumbs up. I think a lot of us get that.
It really does highlight the emotional tightrope creators walk. And they mention that lose-lose situation quote.
Oh yeah, that was sharp. If you create too little, people say you're lazy.
If you create too much, it's AI slop or content overload.
If you make it for others, you're felling out. If you make it for yourself, you're self-indulgent.
It feels like you can't win sometimes.
Exactly. And what's wild here is how AI, which we often think of as like impersonal cold, actually became the tool for this deeply personal connection. Even if it's mostly an internal connection, a validation for the creator.
It makes you think about your own creative battles, right? And how you even define success for yourself.
Totally. And AI became the bridge here. It let the creator, in their words, sort of create a fandom around my subpersonalities.
Even if it's just a fandom of one. I love that phrase.
Me too. It made all that internal stuff somewhat organized and presentable.
So instead of trying to explain everything from scattered notes,
They can just say, here, watch this playlist. It's all there.
that's a huge shift from feeling like you're sharding into the void to...
They put it composing it. That's powerful imagery.
It really is. It speaks to finding the right medium, the right tools to finally get your full, honest voice out there.
Yeah.
And stepping back, looking at the whole thing. This project becomes this living archive, doesn't it? An archive of identity built through metaphors.
A personal mythology, like you said.
Exactly, and shared in such a unique way. Which brings up another big question for all of us, maybe. In this incredibly noisy digital world, with AI adding to the mix, how do we find ways to share our own authentic stories, especially the parts that feel niche or too personal?
That's something to chew on. Ultimately, the creator calls the channel that self-curated museum of my mind and a fandom of one.
Mm-hmm.
And they contrast their work with a lot of pop music, the sex, drugs, vibes, and flexes.
Acknowledging it has its place.
Right, but saying they're personally kind of bored of it. They find soul in specificity, meaning
Right.
taking something overlooked, maybe something unusual, and turning it into a moment of insight, sound, and selfhood.
That focus on specificity, on the unique detail, is where the soul lies for them.
Yeah. The whole project feels incredibly intentional, deeply personal.
They stress that it's intentional, soulful, and crucially mine. It's not aiming for the charts. It's about creating something they needed to exist.
And maybe, just maybe, that's where you, listening, connect.
Right. Perhaps someone sees a little bit of themselves in one of these songs.
Or just gets inspired to think differently about what creativity even can be. It's like an invitation, isn't it?
Yeah,
To a different way of thinking about making things.
definitely. Prioritizing your own expression over what you think others want.
So, wrapping up this deep dive,
Yeah.
we've followed this amazing journey of Max of all trades from basically private notes.
To this whole public museum of the mind built with AI music tools.
It started as personal exploration, but it really grew into this, well, this profound statement about creativity, authenticity.
And what it means to be an artist right now in this digital age. Challenging a lot of assumptions.
So here's something to think about. What about your own inner world, your own internal landscape?
Mm-hmm.
How might you give that shape? How could you express it?
Or, stepping back even further, what does authentic truly mean anymore? In a world overflowing with content, some human-made, some AI-made.
Does it matter how something is made or why?
Exploring this one person's very specific, very personal creative world, it kind of ends up inviting you to explore your own.